that's okay. So we are back where we should be now.
Yeah, good.
That's good. So you don't have to start all over again. It's just that.
Yeah, that's good. That's fine.
All right. So what we have just done there, we basically paused to straighten out our our camera system here. Obviously, for those of you who have been following us, will know that normally we do our interviews and so on at our 102.7 CKMS radio station, where we have all equipment pieces and all of those types of things. But sometimes, you know, we do the extra pieces just to make sure we bring the message that's important to the people. And so that's all that matters, right? Right? So
well, I thank you, because I know you had to come all the way here to meet with me. So
right? Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes, for sure. And so thanks to those guys to kind of straighten this out. So you brought up a good point. So you brought up an interesting piece prior to us just before we switch to getting this. So can you that was an important piece. So can you quickly
Which
say
about
that
writing
again?
the MPs?
Yeah, you brought up.
Yeah. What I mean, a number of Guyanese here. Guyanese are everywhere. I've met Guyanese in Alaska. I've met Guyanese in northern Canada. We seem to get about. What's important is to use our network. For example, you have the Association Concerned Guyanese, you have other Guyanese organizations. Where it is possible, sometimes you can have a petition online calling on the President of Guyana to uphold the Constitution and hold elections by March the 19th, and to defend our democracy. And you can also do that with your members of parliament. There may be members of parliament that you may know of in your community or in your province, to write them letters saying, you know, I'm a taxpayer, a Canadian taxpayer, and that we're asking you to raise these matters in the Ontario Provincial Parliament or in Ottawa, the federal government, questioning, and so it can be done by a question or motion, or just writing your MPs. In the old days when we were struggling for free and fair elections, the groups both in Canada and United States, supporters wrote congressmen and MPs calling on them to support free and fair elections in Guyana. In fact, the first 92 October elections, not only President Carter was there, but Guyanese may not know that the Canadian delegation which observed the October 1992 elections was headed by the then Prime Minister of the Ontario provincial government, and he came as the head of the Canadian Observer Mission, which was made up of parliamentarians and stuff like that. So Canada's played an important role in helping us to restore democracy, and we're calling on Canada again, and the MPs and yourselves, to support this, because if the government, let me put it this way, if the government does not hold elections by March the 19th, we are in dangerous waters, because the Constitution doesn't say what happens if the government doesn't hold elections. What it says is that you shall, and you know, in legal language, shall means you got to do it, right? It's not must, shall. So it's saying to you, you shall have elections. And then it says, this date can only be changed with a 2/3 majority in the House, in the National Assembly. Now, up to now, the government has not indicated any date. The government, when we've gone to the GCOM and said what's going on, because the Guyana Elections Commission has to hold the elections, GCOM is saying, we're waiting for the president to give the date for elections. We can't plan unless he gives a date.
For sure.
And so we have no date, so we're not doing anything. Of course, there's other reasons why GCOM and the present chairman isn't doing anything. But because they are also part of the strategy to postpone as long as possible. So, without a date, with no elections by March 19th, we're now in uncharted waters in the Constitution. And it means we're heading for a constitutional crisis. It doesn't mean that the government couldn't pull back from that and say, look, we'll have it on March 19th, or we could do it on the 1st of April. But they would then have to come to the PPP and say to us, we will bring a motion in Parliament for the date to be April 1st. I'm just hypothetical. And then we would have to decide what we do. What's important to know about is that the voters list that we use in November 12th is valid up to April the 30th. So what we believe the government is trying to do is to push the date for elections. They're trying to hold on to power as long as possible, and I'll explain that a bit more. So they want to push the date past April the 30th, when the list will no longer be valid, which means now you have to go to continuous registration, you got to go to new claims and objection, which is another 3 months. Or what they would prefer to do is to go to a new house-to-house registration, which is another 6 months to 8 months minimum to have the new house-to-house registration, which is pushing us into 2020 when elections are due. The difference now is that a no confidence motion has passed, and those of you who live in Canada know that there have been cases in the Canadian government where the no confidence motion was passed and the government had to resign, set a date, and have elections. And I think that was the case with the Harper government.
That's right,
You know, so that it is normal parliamentary democracy. This is how you keep government on their toes. A no confidence motion is a fundamental aspect of parliamentary democracy to keep the government on their toes, especially the government that has only one seat difference, and where for the last 4 years you don't have many sittings of parliament, because if all 33 are not in the House and not available to be in the House, there's no sitting that can be called. They can't risk it because there's 32 of us and 33 of them. So the government is trying to delay as much as possible. And what we're trying to prevent right now is Guyana going into a constitutional crisis. That's why we're saying to friends, we're talking to religious leaders, foreign governments, and saying, all we're asking you to do is to go visit those for the missions in Guyana, the foreign missions in Guyana, and or those are overseas, to please communicate with the Guyana government and say you have to hold elections within the constitutional framework of the 90 days. And so that's what we're trying to do. Is one, the first step is to prevent a constitutional crisis. If, regardless of all our efforts, that we enter into the post-March 19th period, then we're into completely uncharted waters, and what will occur then?
So, I mean, we know the election is coming up at some point, and I mean, ideally, it will be nice if everybody can cooperate so that, the country can move forward and so on.
Right.
But, very recently, I mean, though we live in Canada here, we still stay connected, obviously,
Yes.
to our roots, and that will never change, obviously.
Yes, exactly.
And, I mean, most recently, I've been talking to many people and so on, and it was only recently, a friend of mine said to me, he voted one time in his life, and he will never vote again.
Right.
So what advice do you have for people who are not too sure whether or not if they should go and vote because they feel as if no government has done anything for them, or they're not seeing the important pieces?
Right.
What advice do you have for them? Because for me, democracy is not about just going and vote every 4 years, but to be part of this whole thing on an ongoing basis. So what advice do you have? Because it will be a crucial thing for people to come out and support.
What is interesting is that a lot of the APNO AFC supporters who voted in very large numbers in 2015 are very, very disappointed. Many of them feel betrayed because the government has not lived up to its promises. The PPP and its track record, the track record of the PPP, whether it's under Chedi in the 60s or 92 to 2015, our track record of moving the economy forward, of developing the economy, of diversifying the economy, of all the sectors doing well, bauxite, rice, sugar, gold, moving into information-based technology, advancing tourism, and then, of course, starting the exploration to do with oil. We have allowed, provided, facilitated over 100,000 households getting land and building their houses. That's never happened, not only in Guyana, but even in Latin America. The model of Guyana was adopted by the World Bank of how to provide affordable land and housing for citizens of the country. And the housing sectors in many of the Latin American countries is a major problem because of the slums and the favelas and stuff. The World Bank that never supported us when Chedi started the program in 94. And we went to the World Bank. The country was bankrupt, as you know, when we took over in 92. And we went to the World Bank and IDB and says, look, we need to have a national housing program. There are 3-4 families living in one house with 1 yard toilet, a latrine, and 1 faucet. And so we need to provide affordable housing. And the World Bank and everyone said, no, they were not going to help us because we were subsidizing the cost in order for people to afford. So we didn't have market value. If we had put the land at market value, people couldn't afford it. 61% of the people in 92 were below the poverty line. And so World Bank said, sorry, we can't lend you the money because you'd have to sell this land at market value. And said, no, we can't do it. And we started the program slowly but surely until by 2015, over 100,000 people had been able to get house lots across Guyana and in the National Housing Program and to be able to build their houses. Since this government has taken over, less than 2,000 house lots have been given out in 3.5 years. They basically stopped the housing program. They then went into saying they're building what you call duplexes. Is that what you duplexes? Yeah. Guyanese, no one duplex when they're at home. When they're in Canada, you've got to live in a duplex. It's not a problem. Duplex at home in Guyana, we're not ready for that yet. And the reason is that everybody wants a little piece of land around their house. They want to grow the callaloo, and they want to have some chicken, and they want to have flower plants, and they have plants that grow coconut or five-finger mango, whatever. This is our culture. This is who we are. When we get 10 million people and we got to start living tighter, that will happen. But right now, Guyana is not happy with that. But it was because the contract was given to one of their financiers. So this is the corruption element of it. Our track record is a good one. Did we make mistakes? Yes. Were we perfect? No, we weren't. However, in comparison to when any other government has run this country, our track record is far better. Do we have things to learn? Of course we have things to learn. We have to do better. And that is why now, at this point when we're preparing for elections, we've opened up the manifesto. I think on our Facebook we're inviting people from the diaspora, any part of the world, Guyanese, non-Guyanese, to put in ideas of what they think should be in our manifesto. So we invite you to go on the PVP Facebook, look for it, and you'll find it, and you can send your ideas in. It doesn't have to be a long dissertation, it could be just an idea. You think that the drainage and irrigation fees for rice farmers are too high, that's fine, send it in. And then we're going to have what is called a big tent meeting, where we have developed over the years in government and out of government a range of stakeholders in the trade union movement, all the religious leaders, women's groups, youth groups, private sector manufacturers, that we consult from time to time on policy issues, on things that are going on in Guyana. We want to bring all those characters together, all those leaders of these organizations together to contribute to our manifesto. And so what we're trying to do before we get into government is to get a buy-in by various organizations. Doesn't mean that everything that's proposed we will agree to, because ultimately the leadership of the party has to look at it. And we also have to be realistic. We're taking over a government now that the country, this government has thrown our debt way back. So when we handed over government in 2015, our reserves, our foreign currency reserves were $785 million US. Our foreign currency reserves right now just under 500 million. Where the money gone, who knows? And they've also increased our debt by $100 billion $100 billion. So that we're more in debt now than we were, probably almost more to the scale of 92 when we took over.
So obviously you're giving us lots of information here, which is a good thing, lots of rich information. So if I was to ask you, because I mean, we living abroad, we will see things differently there,
sure,
right? There's no question about that. You living there and in and out, there being there, you will view things a little bit different. Right. So if I was to ask you, what's the biggest issue in Guyana right now? What are some of the biggest challenges for people? Because I mean, obviously, people need to survive, people need to live.
Sure.
People need a decent job, all of those pieces. So what's the biggest issue you know of? We just want to see if it's matching with what we're hearing from people.
Yeah, well, there are many issues. I mean, it depends.
Of course.
In the area of people's survival, economy, and their ability to have jobs, to be able to pay their bills, and not to be taxed so heavily. So that's kind of a number one overriding concern, whether you're a taxi driver, minibus driver, fisherman, rice farmer, sugar worker, vendor. These are the concerns. How their ability, their purchasing power has been reduced so radically in the last 3.5 years they're really having difficulty managing, and that a lot of people plunged into poverty that were under the PPP government, being able to say they had hope, they knew where things were going, they could take out a loan and buy a car and put it into a taxi service. So the economy is a critical one, being able to get the economy stimulated back again and to be able to get the business people to start being able to expand. Because as people's purchasing power was reduced, people then couldn't buy, couldn't do things, and therefore companies closed, people lost their jobs. And so the economy is the big elephant in the room that needs to be addressed. And the longer this government is there, the worse the economy will get.
So you probably answered my next question partially. So if PPP was to get back into power,
we will, don't worry.
I'm not worried about that. What will the party do differently to make sure that the country is moving forward, compared to the way it is right now, for example? Well, I mean, because they've been in power before, they've done things, and I mean, having a little bit of a change. It was me who wrote the article, accepting change when the new government swore in and so on. Because for me, it was okay to have a little bit of a change. But speaking of change, now that people can compare.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So I think people are in a really good situation to
that's the irony. That's the irony of the whole thing. The irony is that in us coming out of government, we came out with some dignity because the government, the APNU FC, despite some tampering of the election machinery, could only come out with 4,526 votes more. So our dignity was not harmed too much. Our dignity of having to come out of office. But also it helped us to get perspective. It helped us to go back and renew our engagement at the grassroots level and to be able to expand into APNU AFC areas, because the promises that people were made.
I can see the comments people are making there. Yes, we will. They're repeating this.
The promises people were made. And that's why you had such a terrible turnout at the local government elections from APNU AFC areas. I worked in Bartica, for example. That was where I was assigned to work for local government. Bartica has always been treated by the PNC APNU as their territory. They got transport on the place. We were able to increase our votes in Bartica by 500, and the APNU votes fell by 500. So that we're making inroads in different areas. In the south of Georgetown, we're actively going out, talking to people. People are saying, they're not going to vote. It's all right. But they can't say that PPP didn't come to them. And some of them even saying, PPP coming to us and we don't vote for y'all. And the ministers don't come at all. The APNU AFC. So they're very browned off with their own people. However, the economy is the big thing. The other issues have to do with ensuring that the rights issues and discrimination and corruption are addressed. And so when the government came in, they have removed a lot of people who they considered PPP, whether by ethnicity or by political affiliation, and so Amerindians, the group that in the first few months of the government, ethnic group that was most impacted on was the Amerindians. 1,972 Amerindians lost their jobs. One pen by the then Vice President, Mr. Sidney Alicock, Minister of Indigenous Affairs. That led to 700 million Guyana dollars being removed from those Amerindian communities, because those 1,972 people had about 10,000 dependents spread across different villages in Region 1, 7, 8, and 9, and parts of 10. So that's $700 million that was removed from the economy of those communities, and therefore led to greater poverty in those communities. So the Amerindian communities, a number of them are very angry, they're very upset. Among Afro-Guyanese, particularly those that supported APNU AFC, they feel betrayed by their government and their party. And the Indo-Guyanese that went with the AFC have recognized, I believe, that the AFC betrayed them as well. We didn't have to prove all of this. They saw it in Parliament, the amount of times that things that the AFC had made commitments to their supporters, and then when they came to Parliament, they voted solemnly with the APNU AFC. the big issue for us at Guyanese is how do we build a country that has national unity and there's trust and confidence. And that's going to take a while to do that. But we are committed to have an even hand with what services and goods we offer to our people. And therefore, we have to be able to ensure that people feel that they want a house lot and they're eligible, that they will be treated fairly and be able to access it. When we came out in 2015, based on the applications we received, we were at about year 2011, 2012. So you still had 2013, 15 and whatever's here waiting when we go back in office. Because you have to open up new land, you have to survey, you have to put in drainage and irrigation. These take time. And then also people have 2 years within which to pay for their land. So it's a process. The point is that it led to 5,000 new jobs in construction alone. It led to the breaking up of what was the post-1960s villages that were African Indian, African Indian, African Indian. So you had more communities evolving that were different ethnic groups. So we were breaking up some of the things. Unintentionally, this was not the plan when we did it, but this is what we started to see. The number of single parents who are women in Guyana who got land is a critical ingredient in women's involvement in the economy and in society. We're still a country where not enough women are engaged in the economy. And still, Jamaica and them places are advanced to us. We have increased it from what was about 35% to maybe 45% of the economy. That's not enough. We need more women in the economy. But by women as single parents being able to get house lots, build their houses, be able to get mortgages, to be able to have collateral now, that they can now open a little hairdressing thing or a nail craft thing or get a minibus and put into operation to develop entrepreneurship among women. These are major changes that don't happen overnight. These take time to fructify, but in which the PPP as a government, PPC as a government, created these opportunities that allow for people to develop. Trust and confidence will come as a government that we are being fair. And the PPP is the only party that is diverse ethnically. So when you look in the parliament, you look at the two sides of the parliament, you'll understand what I mean.
For those of you who happen to tune into us halfway through, normally obviously we do our regular chit chat talk show, in our radio station, but we took the opportunity to have a chit chat with Gail, who's in Canada here, and it looks like you have lots of fans watching here because they're saying they're not saying anything to me. They're saying hope you stay warm in Canada, and so
I'm trying to with layers.
Right, and so
I had to go back to putting on layers of clothes.
And so so I just thought I'd let you know that we tried to find a way to really connect so that people abroad and obviously people who are living in Guyana as well too can have a good sense as to what's happening and give us some updates, because as you know, the media, when you kind of get information from the media, it's not always accurate. By the time you get still it reach us and so on, and the story changes and so on. So we just felt that it was important to really take the time to kind of really meet with you, to kind of give us Guyanese people an idea as to what's happening, some ideas and so on, and I can see that people they want to engage themselves in whatever way they can, and things have changed as people can engage in so many different ways, and I think that's one of the reasons you're probably here as well to share, right? And we appreciate the fact that you took the time to kind of come here to kind of share with us, the Guyanese people, because as I was mentioning earlier, though we live here, and I've been in Canada for 2.5 decades now, believe it or not, we still feel very connected. And for those of you who don't know me, I was born and raised in Berbice, Guyana, right by the Secretary Beach there. So
it's a pretty area.
It is, and it has changed as well too. So I realize that you have a tight schedule, a busy schedule. Obviously, we're going to stay connected, and for the people who are watching, make sure you share the video, because it will give people an opportunity to kind of understand what's happening and how they can be involved as well too, and so on. So if I was to leave it up to you now to kind of, because I know you're busy and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but what are some of the few, last words you want to say? Because people are watching, they're listening, we're going to put it on the radio as well too. What are the few last pieces you want to share?
We believe that with free and fair elections and elections held within the Constitution, we can win and be the next government. We have a lot of work to do to unravel what the AFNOAFC has done and to try to improve the economy and to give our people fair opportunities and chances to advance. We have to undo the damage in the sugar industry by closing the estates, sending 7,000 people off the employment list, and damaging a number of communities. Almost a quarter of the population of Guyana has been impacted by the closure of those estates, including fishermen, taxi men, minibusmen, because again, people have money.
They love watching you. I'm not cutting you. They love watching you. That's what they're saying. Go ahead. You go ahead.
So we have to fix that, and we're committed within the first year or two to open back 2 of the estates and to work towards the rest. We're talking about bringing in about 50,000 new jobs within the first term of office. We can reconstruct and put back a number of those 25,000 jobs that were lost. We have to encourage more investment, both local diaspora people as well as foreigners. We have to, with the oil and gas, we have to make sure that we put mechanisms in place of whatever is owed to Guyana under the agreement with Exxon that we get. And we have to have a lot of regulatory capacity to do that, but any new oil and gas have to be under completely different terms than what was given to Exxon, so that we, the people, have this is our patrimony, this is our asset, it doesn't belong to Exxon, and we, or any other company, we have to get a better share of this to make sure that our people benefit for generations and generations to come. And so the important step we have to make, and again I ask you, sometimes when elections are coming up, people get very exuberant, and they say, 60% and the PB is going to win 60% and 70%, 80%. No. Let's be calm. Let's be practical. We want to win, and we want to win a majority, not a 33. We want to win 36, 37.
You don't want to go through that
No, we're not going through that calculating, that every sitting, all the people have to be there. No, we want to have a clear, like with Jeddy had won 54% when Janet Jagan was president. We won almost 55, 56% when Gail became president. The second time round in 2006, Jagdeo and Janet had brought in the same number of votes in Parliament. We want to have that so we're secure. We can reverse the taxes that these people brought in, bring in low carbon development strategy again, which was Guyana's innovation and a development strategy. And therefore we're asking you this. Your families at home. We know some people say, I want to vote for PPP, I want to vote for this, I want to vote for that one. Comrades, we don't have compulsory voting in Guyana. But if we want to get Guyana out of the hole we're in now, because I'm telling you, if this government continues, by the time we do have elections in 2020, which are required, we will be back at 1992, where the economy is we're bankrupt, where different sectors have collapsed. We need to be able to save our nation. We need to be able to restore our nation quickly, and as quickly as possible. So ask your relatives and your family. First of all, make sure their name on the voters list when it comes out. Many people say, yeah, my name in there. They never go and check it. And then election day, you're going to check it, and then they discover they can't vote.
So if their name is not in there, so they can't vote at all. Here is a little bit different here. If your name is not in there, if you have the proper ID, they put your name right there on the spot.
No, your name have to be on the list. But remember, some people have moved around, so sometimes people forget which list they're on. So some people in your region, might have come and work in Georgetown, got registered in Georgetown, go back to the region, and then their name is on the Georgetown list. Now, because of the election, the Constitution is saying elections must be held by March the 19th. It means there's no period for people to do transfers. So we're asking you to talk to your families, check where your name there, and wherever the name is, that's where you got to vote, right? And then encourage your families to please come out and support the People's Progressive Party Civic. Our track record is still the best for any party in government, and we've been able to lift poverty that many of our people have suffered, of all races. and we can move this country forward. So we're asking you to do some homework. So I've given you 2 tasks in this program. So, and that is 1, to encourage your families, and 2, to call up your MP's office, and because I don't know which areas are listening in the program, and maybe the radio station could help the viewers in the next program say, well, here are some of the MPs. I know in Canada everything's on websites, so you could look up and you find their birth date, you find out how much children they got, you find out their own business.
Some they find out that'll be too much. Yeah?
Yes, exactly. So, you know, you could think about that, and because all of this will, if the government isn't going to listen to the legislature, it's not going to listen to the judiciary, it doesn't listen to the courts, then the judiciary, then we have a big problem emerging, and we need to put the pressure on the government at the international level. We've met the different diplomatic corps in Guyana, we've met the World Bank, the IDB, we're in contact with the Commonwealth Secretariat, the Organization of American States, the CARICOM, all these countries and regional bodies and international bodies to say, watch what's going on in Guyana, and the Guyana government must comply with the Constitution.
So I don't want to put you on the spot or anything of that kind, you know, and you don't have to answer me this question if you don't want to. But tell me one good thing you think the current government has done. Don't tell me that everything they've done is bad. I don't know what to say.
That's something you should ask them, not me.
That's okay.
No, what they've done that's good is, actually what they've done is good. It wasn't intention to do good, but they did it by accident, I think, was to make Guyanese people recognize that this call to race, which is what was one of their platforms, is not one that can hold the country. And that by one thing they did was good is they made all these promises and they haven't kept them. And that's what made people recognize that the PPP, under the PPP, things were better. So inadvertently they helped us. So that may be something good they did.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. I just thought, to be fair,
yeah,
you know, just to kind of give you that opportunity. You know, I personally would like to take the time to thank you for making yourself available. And to the viewers, you know, thank you so much, and thank you for your comment and so on. Obviously, I do encourage you to share the video so that people can have a sense as to what's happening, at least from somebody who knows what's happening, somebody who you know, who has been very involved, you know, not only with politics, but, you know, in the whole Guyana culture itself,
right,
you know, kind of thing. So I think it's going to be very important. But if you hopefully you watch it back after, because I don't think you have your glasses on. There are a lot of good comments there. So
no, I don't have my glasses. I can't see that far without my glasses.
So that's one reason I end up to kind of share, you know, because sometimes it's okay. But I appreciate that all of you took the time as well to kind of take a sneak peek to listen to a little chit chat. As I mentioned earlier, normally we will have, you know, our talk show in an actual radio station, but sometimes we do a little extra to make sure we get the message to you. And today I think we have done it, and we think we have done it well. I'm pretty much sure you've gained something with this very, very rich conversation here. And so again, I would like to, on behalf of myself and all the Canadians here, we would like to wish you all the best, you know, for the rest of your stay here. But also, we wish you the best there, and we would like to thank you as well too for what you do for the people in Guyana. And one of the things I would like to say though, keep in mind, I mean, I would encourage everybody to be part of this whole thing. You know, voting is important, but you want to do more. There are opportunities in Guyana, but you have to seek for it, you know. So you really have to kind of try to maximize the potential that you have, you know, or utilize the resources you have to really maximize your potential. And, you know, and at the end of the day, we have to work together. I mean, the place where we live, you know, I was born and raised, you know, in the Signify area there, and you know, we have a variety of people there, mixed. We never see each other differently, and we were up to recently was sharing, you know, this with my classmate, that we never look at each other differently. So we're Guyanese, and something we should be proud of. So let's not separate ourselves, you know, based on our color, beliefs, all of those types of things. Another thing I would suggest to you too is to for the people who are running and representing any party, I would really encourage you to really make sure that you do whatever you can for the Guyanese people, because that's all they're really asking for. Like, you know, they want a better life. They want to be able to, you know, to be part of society, all of that, you know. And so for those of you running, regardless what party you're running for, make sure you take care of our Guyanese people, and whatever we can do living abroad here, we'll do our piece too as well too. And we're always, you know, doing bits and pieces, but at the end of the day, we have to work together, you know. I mean, I want Guyana to give me a reason to go to Guyana. And so, you know, I don't want to go to Guyana and be afraid, you know, take this going on, that going on, all of those type of pieces.
Yeah.
So I think those things are important. So the fact that you came here, share all those pieces, I think it is a very beautiful thing. So thank you so much again.
Thank you very much
really
for
appreciate
allowing me to have the time.
All right. Thank you so much. And
Take
do
care
share
of
a video.
yourselves. And bye-bye. Thank you so much for coming all this way to
No
interview me.
problem. My
Okay,
pleasure.
thank you.
All right.
Okay.